Hello, this is Ms. DB. In this video we are going to learn to write equations of lines parallel to a given line, and it'll also be through a given point. So remember, you should have learned through some of your other assignments that parallel lines have equal slopes. That's very key. So if you're given one line and you can find the slope of that line, then you are able to write the equation of the other line. M stands for slope. So if you're given an equation in slope-intercept form, find the number that is multiplied to the x, the number in front of the x. If there's no number there, the slope is 1. And if you're given an equation in point-slope form, the m is the slope, and it would be before the parentheses that says x minus some point. So we will be writing equations in one of these two forms. You need to know these two forms and be able to use them. These were taught in a different folder. So go back and look if you need to review those. So there are some certain steps to write the equation in point-slope form. So if the directions say, write the equation of a line that is parallel to this line and goes through this point, and write your equation in point-slope form. These are the steps you would follow. Find the slope. So if you're given the equation of a line, your new line will have a slope equal to it, like we just talked about. So find m. It's probably easiest to first write the equation in slope-intercept form so you can just find the number that's multiplied by x. So if it's not already in that form, rewrite it so that it's y equals mx plus b form. Then find m. Then identify the point. It'll be given to you in the problem. That is going to be your x1, y1 in point-slope form. So x1 goes here, y1 goes here. So then take their slope that you found from step 1, take the point that you found in step 2, and plug them into the point-slope form of a line. Here's an example problem. Write the equation of the line parallel to y equals 2x minus 8 that passes through the point 1, negative 3. So step 1 is to find the slope. This is already in slope-intercept form, y equals 2x minus 8. The slope is the 2 because that is the number that is being multiplied by the x. So we know what our slope is. Step 2 is to identify the point that you are given that the line will go through. It says write the equation of the line parallel to 2x minus y equals 2x minus 8 that passes through the point. This is our point. x1, x sub 1 is 1. Y sub 1 is negative 3. Use those in the point-slope form. So we know that m is 2. We know y sub 1 is negative 3, that goes here, and we know x sub 1 is 1. Now be careful, right here you can simplify this. Y minus a negative 3, minus a negative is the same as plus, so we're going to write that as y plus 3 equals 2 times parentheses x minus 1. This is in point-slope form, and they ask us to write it in point-slope form, so we are done at that point. Sometimes you are asked to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So you will do all those same steps, but then you will add step 4, which is to distribute, multiply on the right side, and solve the equation for y to get it into slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Let's look at an example. We are given an equation. Let's see. Write the equation of the line that is parallel to 2y plus x equals negative 6 and passes through the point negative 1, 4. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. This equation is not yet written in slope-intercept form. Now that might happen on any of these problems. If that happens, your first step is to find the slope by solving this for y, by writing this in slope-intercept form. So to find this, let's see, this is what we're starting with. We need y equals, so we need to subtract the x from both sides because right now it's being added. So you subtract x from both sides. Then you get 2y equals negative x minus 6. And the reason that I didn't write negative 6 minus x is because in slope-intercept form the x is first. So negative x minus 6 is getting me closer to writing this in slope-intercept form. Now I have 2y equals negative x minus 6. I don't want 2y, I want y. So I'm going to divide every single term by 2. When I take negative x divided by 2, that's the same as negative 1x divided by 2. And that's the same, I can just put the number parts together as negative 1/2 x. So negative x over 2 becomes negative 1/2 x, which is how I wrote it here. And then negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, minus 3. Now I'm able to figure out the slope. The slope is the number in front of x. So now that I wrote it this way, I can see that the slope is negative 1/2. And you can leave it as negative 1/2. You don't have to change that to a decimal. All right, next step. Step 2 is to find the point from the problem. So we go through, read the problem again, passes through the point negative 1, 4. That's the point. X sub 1 is negative 1, y sub 1 is 4. So we're going to plug those points. We now know that m is negative 1/2. We now know that x sub 1 is negative 1 and y sub 1 is 4. So we take those and we put them into point slope form. So y minus 4, because y1 was 4, equals negative 1/2, because that's what m is, times parentheses x minus negative 1, because x sub 1 is negative 1. We need to simplify this because we don't leave a minus a negative. Minus a negative 1 is the same as plus 1. So all of this is the same. Y minus 4 equals negative 1/2, but we change the minus a negative 1 to a plus 1. All right, now we have, that would be the answer if they said write it in point slope form, but they said write it in slope-intercept form. This is not slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is when you have y equals mx plus b. So now we are going to simplify and solve this for y. So the first step would be to take negative 1/2 and multiply it by both of the terms in the parentheses. So we have negative 1/2 times x and negative 1/2 times 1. So we leave the y minus 4, that's the same, equals negative 1/2 times x. We just write negative 1/2 times x, negative 1/2 x, and negative 1/2 times 1 is just minus 1/2. Now we need to add 4 to both sides to get y by itself. So we add 4 to the negative 1/2, and that is the same as 3.5. If you take negative 1/2 plus 4, that's the same as 4 minus 1/2. If you have 4 things minus a half, that's 3.5. So now we have our equation written in slope-intercept form, and this is what your answer would be. So those are the steps you're going to follow. Make sure that you note whether or not you need to write them in point slope form, like the first problems, or whether you need to write it in slope-intercept form, like the last problems. So there are 10 problems to do. Number 9 and 10 are a little bit different, but there are 4 of each type that we just went over. So be sure to follow the steps that are given and show your work. So in number 1, it says find the slope. Write your answer here. Don't just skip and write your answer at the bottom. Find the slope. Well, the slope is given to us because this is in y equals mx plus b form. That's called slope-intercept. M is the slope. So the slope is 3. Identify the point from the problem. Use that point as x sub 1, y sub 1. Write that down. It says that they want us to find the equation of the line parallel to the given line and passing through the given point. The given point is 4, 2. It's right there. Substitute the slope and the coordinates of the point into the point slope form of line. Simplify if needed. So we are going to take y minus y sub 1. Find y sub 1. Well, this is x sub 1. This is y sub 1. So y minus 2 equals m. M is right here. X minus x sub 1. Find x sub 1. It's right here. It's 4. Can you read that? This is in point slope form. We don't have to simplify because we don't have any minus a negative. This is our answer and you're done. Don't do anything else to it. Number 2, number 3, and number 4 are all the same. The only difference is in number 3, you do not know the slope yet. There's no slope given to you yet. You have to write the equation in slope-intercept form first so you can find the slope. So the first step in number 3, and you need to show your work, is to write this down and then to solve this for y, because point or slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, not 2y. So we need to divide every term by 2 and then rewrite it so that you know what the slope is, which will be the number times x. Then write down the point that is given in the problem. Then plug everything into this. This one you will have to simplify because one of the points is negative, and if you have minus a negative, that's better written as a plus. So don't forget to do that. Number 4, we don't know the slope. So to find the slope, you have to rewrite your equation that you're given, and then you have to solve this for y. Now this is not yet y equals, it's 4y plus 3x equals 8. We have to undo the plus 3x first, so we would minus 3x from both sides. So then you would have 4y equals negative 3x plus 8. Now there's another step. We don't want 4y, we want y. So you would need to divide every term by the number that's being multiplied by y. Your fraction and your slope in this time will be a fraction. That's not a big deal because all you're going to do is be plugging it in. You don't have to even use the fraction. You just have to write it. So make sure to show your steps and make sure you're finding the slope if it's not already given to you in slope-intercept form. Alright, number 5, 6, 7, and 8, you are going to do the same thing, except this time you'll have to do the extra step because they want the answer in slope-intercept form of a line. So you'll find the slope. In this case, it's already written in slope-intercept form, so you can just find what the slope is. The point is already given to you, and then you will write it in point-slope form, and then you will simplify that and write it in y equals mx plus b form, which is how they want their answer. Number 6, same exact thing. Number 7 is the same exact thing. Number 8 is the extra step of that you do not know what the slope is because this is not written in slope-intercept form. So in number 8, this is one where you will have to first solve for y so that we can figure out what the slope is. You can't tell what the slope is when it's in standard form. So we want this to look like y equals mx plus b. So we want y by itself on the left side. So I don't want the minus 4x here, so the opposite would be to add 4x to both sides. But we can't actually take negative 10 plus 4x and get one term. So we will write 4x minus 10. So you won't get like one term there. You'll have a couple terms. Now we want y by itself. We don't want it to be multiplied by 2, so we have to divide every term by 2. So 2y divided by 2 is y equals 4x over 2 would be 2x minus 10 over 2 would be minus 5. Now we can tell what the slope is. The slope is the number that's being multiplied by the x. It's 2. We don't use the minus 5 for anything, by the way. Now we identify the point from the problem right here. It's 2, 3. So this is our x sub 1, this is our y sub 1. Now we are going to plug those into our point slope form of a line. Y minus y sub 1 equals the slope we found was 2 times x minus x sub 1. Now we're not done because in this problem they ask us to write it in y equals mx plus b form, and it's not yet. So we are going to distribute the 2. So we would have y minus 3 equals 2x times 2 times negative 2 would be minus 4. And then we still have to add the 3 to both sides. And we would get minus 4 plus 3 would be minus 1. Let's see if I can get that back up where it belongs. Maybe not. Y. I was trying to copy these and move them up there. There we go. Okay. Because that was still for number 8. Now in number 9 and 10, these are a little bit different. You have to think about these a little bit. All vertical lines are parallel to each other. Write the equation of the line parallel to x equals 4 and passes through 1, 2. If you have lines that are parallel to each other, think about what their equation would be. So here's our xy coordinate system. Here's a vertical line. The equation of this vertical line is x equals whatever point it goes through on the x-axis. So this line would have the equation x equals 5. If I had a vertical line over here at -5, this equation would be x equals -5. You're told that you have an equation, you have a line parallel to x equals 4, so that's pretty close to this. There's the line x equals 4, and it passes through the point 1, 2. So what line would go through that point? What would be the equation of that vertical line? It goes through at x equals 1. So the equation of this line would be x equals 1. The equation would be equal to the x coordinate of that point. You don't use this for anything. You only use that part, so x equals 1. And then the next part says all horizontal lines are parallel to each other. All horizontal lines are of the form y equals some number. So which part of this coordinate do you think you'd use? Would you use the x part or the y part? So think about that and answer these questions. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you very much.